Support for First Coast Connect is provided in part by Baptist Health and North Florida TPO.
Good morning, I'm Ann Schindler, and this is First Coast Connect. Today, 8 stages and 30 performers hit 5 points this weekend. We go behind the numbers with the organizers of Riverside Avondale Preservation's second annual music tour. Later in the program, a local environmental group expands to meet the growing challenge. But first, the history of music in Jacksonville is deep and as varied as the artists, from the Allman Brothers to the Quad City DJs. And for the second year, a local music event aims to both explore and build on that legacy. Here to tell us about RAP's second annual music tour is Shannon Blankinship, Executive Director of Riverside Avondale Preservation. Good morning, Shannon.
Hi, Ann. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you back. We're also joined by artist-photographer Max Michaels, who's also founder and publisher of Movement Magazine. Good morning, Max.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. And via video, we're joined by John Glass, author of Occupancy 250. Fans, Bands, and Fried Chicken, the stories of Einstein A Go-Go. Good morning, John.
Good morning. Great to be here.
It's great to have you. And, congratulations on the book. I know it's been very well received here in town. What made you want to record this club's history? You're a former customer yourself, so I'm just curious what made you want to compile this really extensive memoir collection of all stories and photos?
Well, I am among the many who have wanted this book to happen, and was lucky enough to be a part of the group that actually did put it together. But even dating back to the final days of the club in 1997, there's been a desire amongst the fans, the people who passed through the club doors, to put together some kind of collection. And it wasn't until the pandemic, when we all seemed to find ourselves looking for something more to do, that a group of us started to come together and collect these stories, started digging through our boxes in our closets and basements to figure out what mementos we might have from there. And fortunately, we were the group of us that ended up producing this, Allison Durham, Dee Edenfield Marling, and Jennifer Curry Compton. We all, had ways to pull this together. And while it took a couple of years, we really feel like we brought the best of the stories and the memories and many of the photos and mementos from that era, all together in this one book.
And how difficult was it acquiring all of this history and ephemera? I mean, a big part of this story is history and also the time that it took that the club operated. A lot of what it did, how it influenced people, is rooted in history. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that. But just in terms of accumulating the ticket stubs, the flyers, the calendars, the pictures, how did you go about gathering all that information?
So that definitely is, or was one of the challenges when we brought this ourselves together and trying to figure out, what do we have or what might we be able to get our hands onto. So came together. The collection came together in a couple different ways. One, we have a Facebook group that is fairly active. There's nearly 4,000 people who are part of the Einstein A Go-Go group. And so we were able to certainly put calls out there for people to, share what they have saved from the days. So that was definitely helpful. We had people, scanning in ticket stubs or sharing the actual physical photo that they had snapped during those days. Thinking about that era, 1985 to 1997, that predates most of the internet. Maybe a couple of years there at the end, but very much predates even the popularity of cell phones. So all the photos that appear in the book are actual film cameras. So Allison Durham, one of the co-authors, she was a active photographer during the day and capturing a lot of the images, the bands there. But we also found a couple other area photographers who seem to have collections, or at least really strong images that we could tap into. So one from Orlando, Jim Leatherman, and then another from St. Augustine, James Quine. So between at least having the photos and the visuals there, that was great. Then getting our hands on any of the mementos from that era was the other part. We knew we could get the stories from people, they're very much willing to share. We put out a call about a particular show. What do you remember? That's great. We could get interviews with bands who played there, and able to interview the daughters, Tammy and Terry, as well, from their recollection of managing or running this amazing place.
Yeah, and for those who are watching our live stream, we're seeing some images from inside the club. We just saw a picture of Faith No More and then In Living Color. And it's worth mentioning, Max, just the bands that played there. I mean, there's sort of a joke in the book about the fact that everybody's got this T-shirt, the T-shirt with the list of bands that
Right.
that played there. But I just have to go through some of them because it is an astonishing, and this is not exhaustive, but Sonic Youth, Royal Crescent Mob, Yo La Tengo, Nirvana, Jane's Addiction. We already mentioned Living Color, Ween, Firehose, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Flaming Lips, Faith No More, Modern English, Mudhoney, the Violent Femmes, Fishbone, King Missile, Jonathan Richman, Camper Van Beethoven, the Meat Puppets. I mean, just an unbelievable array.
Goes on and on.
Yeah. How much of a part of the musical heart and soul of Jacksonville is Einstein A Go-Go?
I mean, for me, it was at the inception of it for the alternative scene, because that's where I grew up. I started going when I was 15 years old, and seeing these bands was transformative. It led me to where I ended up, getting way more into the music and being able to find more music, because also the Faircloths had the Theory Shop record store, so we could not only go and hear the music, but buy the music right there. If we liked it, we'd go into the shop and see if they had it in stock and buy it. So it helped build our collections and stuff like John said, in a pre-internet era where, everything was word of mouth, or, you had to know where to go. That was the place to go.
And Movement Magazine emerged out of that kind of milieu, right? And also served that purpose. I think it is hard for people to recall this pre-internet era where if you wanted to hear about a band, you couldn't search it up. You couldn't find it on the internet. You would literally have to hear it in a record store, see the band. This was, there were some college radio stations, but in this area, at least, they did not, the few that there were had pretty lackluster signals. So
Right.
It wasn't like you were able to hear these bands on college radio as you were in some larger cities.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's what got me started into doing the magazine. I was going to Douglas Anderson. I was into photography. I love taking pictures. I love taking pictures of bands. It was very exciting to go to shows and try to capture that moment. And that sort of led me into wanting to have a place to put these photos. and I'd already, played around with doing comic books and publishing and stuff at a very young age, with Xerox copiers and stuff. And so that I sort of formulated that into Movement Magazine, with having a place to put these photos and to put stories along with them, so that people would be able to find them and then put those in all of the shops, the clothing stores, the record stores, the cafes, all the live music venues, all the places that used to be on every street corner when pre-internet again.
Yeah.
Record stores.
If you're just joining us, we are talking about the music history of the First Coast ahead of RAP's second annual music tour. If you have comments or memories of the Jacksonville music scene, we want to hear from you. Give us a call at 904-549-2937. You can also email firstcoastconnect@wjct.org or reach out on social media. We've got a call from Charles on the west side. Good morning, Charles. Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. I'm 68 years old, but back in 1990, an Army buddy called me, and he, from Chicago, and he said, "Hey, our band's playing at your beach this weekend. Why don't you meet us there at this place called Einstein A Go-Go?" And the band was called My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to hang out upstairs with the band before the show, and it was a great, wonderful evening. And I was in my 30s then, and I was truly the oldest man in the club. Thanks for the memories, and I'll be looking for the book.
Thanks for sharing that, Charles. Obviously a well-known band name there.
And they're still playing live, so I just saw them recently.
Yeah, I want to ask John, particularly about the all ages factor at Einstein A Go-Go. It was unusual in the alt club scene nationally to have an all ages club. Sometimes they would have all ages nights, but in terms of being able to see every band live, all ages, meant that they didn't serve alcohol, which was also rather unique in the alt music scene. How did that impact in terms of, the really younger people that were seeing these bands and going to the club?
Uh, I mean, that was key, I think, to making the club as significant in the lives of thousands of North Florida teenagers and even probably many who came from beyond there. I mean, being all ages, serving no alcohol, that you know essentially opened the door to anyone, of course, just for that rule alone. But because of that, it allowed a lot younger people to come in, whether that's to see a band or come for dance night or just come with their friends. And so, really, Einstein's became this clubhouse of sorts, for young people to gather, and they very much had a we welcome all kind of policy. And so, there was, as long as no trouble was caused, you were allowed to be in there. And so for teens or young people who didn't really have find a place, whether that's their high school or in their community, they could definitely potentially find their people there at Einstein's. And so yeah, the all ages factor, which was not common in the Jacksonville area or in many communities at that point, really did bring a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds together, people looking for connection, and it happened there on First Street in Jacksonville Beach.
And John, one thing that didn't occur to me until I was reading your book was how the no alcohol policy impacted the bands, which I thought was very interesting because you had interviews and comments from bands who said, it actually made the club more appealing, that they would sort of amongst themselves say, well, what these people are, they're here to see the band. They're not here to get wasted. They're here because they care about the music. And it actually, while the bands would, drink sometimes and, they would have beer backstage and everything, they really did sometimes appreciate the fact that the audience was relatively sober.
We heard that repeatedly. They really felt like the bands were the fans that were there to see them because just for the love of music. And they might be on a tour schedule where they're playing in Orlando or Atlanta the day before, and it was very noticeable to them when they came to Einstein's, and thus why many came on repeated occasions. That this is a place where people cared about music and the culture and each other more so than a night at any other bar.
We're talking about Jacksonville's music scene over the years, including a new book, History of Einstein A Go-Go, and you can call us at 904-549-2937. We have a call from John on the South Side. Good morning, John. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for covering this issue. And I wanted to pose a question to your guests, the authors and such, how they think the change in not only the music scene, but some of the establishments that cater to kind of different subcultures, and maybe that's the word, is I've heard some complaints that there aren't these types of establishments, and some have gone away of recent, and there's a new kind of a cookie cutter kind of model that's coming in, more of a corporate sort of style. I was wondering, if they would consider and discuss maybe, how they think the impact of those changes will, impact the community. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Max Michaels, I'll ask you to take that if you don't mind. I mean, obviously you've covered this scene for many, many years. How has it changed?
Sure. I mean, well, there's nothing like Einstein. I mean, that was kind of an anomaly on its own. And I think one thing John mentioned, and I think one of the big things about that club, for me especially, was the dance nights. Because although a lot of live music venues were all ages for live shows, their dance nights were always 18 and up. So, and there weren't a lot of places playing that type of music either. So, and to go out there and be able to, at 15 years old, to be able to go into a club and hear Bauhaus for the first time, or The Cure, or Susie was absolutely incredible. It set me on a different course to where I'm at today to be able to even start the magazine, or But as far as venues today, there are still great independent venues that are doing things like Jackrabbits in San Marco just puts tons of bands through every week that people should be going out and seeing, and a lot of their shows are all ages as well. So there's still venues out there like that, even though some, are more corporate, maybe are bigger bands or bigger shows that come through. But I think probably one of the biggest things that's changed in the industry is the pricing. That's the big thing, because it's so expensive to get into shows nowadays.
Dancing itself has sort of gone by the wayside. I mean, there's places that have sort of like line dancing, but in terms of just free form dancing, there's just not as many. People don't do it as much as they used to.
See, you would think that, but we do. I've been doing goth nights since '94 in Jacksonville,
Okay.
and we still do goth nights. And my partner Johanna Moresco does Resurgence at Albatross on the fourth Saturday of the month, and we do a Sanctuary Goth Night on the second Sunday of the month at Myth downtown, and we're on a Sunday, and we get a couple hundred people through to come, and they dress up like the kids look like they're on the cover of the old propaganda magazine from the 80s. I mean, they are really into the scene, and they dress the part, and they love it, and they come out and dance all night long. So there is some pockets of that still happening.
Sure. And as my producer is noting, the silent discos are very, popular, emergent, a sort of
Sure.
different experience, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah.
Those are great because you can kind of do them anywhere.
I want to take a call from Denise in Arlington. Good morning, Denise. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Denise. So excited to be going to the 40th reunion of Einstein. I have very fond memories my entire childhood of going to Einstein, particularly for dance nights, although I went to a lot of shows too. And one of my favorite is dancing. There was a dance contest, which I don't think I ever would have entered in my entire life, but I did, and I won. Being DJ'd, I believe, by one of the Toddy brothers.
Ah,
So
congrats.
that was super fun.
That's great. We also have a call from Eric on the South Side. Good morning, Eric. Go ahead.
Good morning. Taking me back some decades. I'm 77 years old, so there may be a few people out there, a few listeners that will remember this. The old Coliseum downtown. James Brown was a frequent performer. Rod Stewart, Sister Sledge, Chic, and there was Abe Levert's Record Bar. He was a big-time advertiser on radio. If anybody remembers that, you had to go downtown to look at your records, as you said earlier, Ann. And then there was the Southside Women's Club. Swinging Medallions were often there, Mouse and the Boys, the Illusions, and there was the Beaches Coliseum, Sham, the Pharaohs, Eric Burden, quite a few others. It was wonderful. You could get in for $2-3. It was before the gun culture, so you felt safe, and it was a wonderful time here in Jacksonville. Thanks
Eric,
for listening.
Thanks so much for sharing your memory. I appreciate it. We also have a call from Omar in Riverside. Good morning, Omar. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, Max.
Hey.
Well, I heard the few times now I've heard that there are or there are less venues, and that may be true. However, it is not less safe. I really wish that we would stop this rhetoric of a different type of people being maybe in 5 Points or being in maybe at venues that, I came from that era. I was at Einstein's. I was at Rock and Roll Pizza. I've been at, Rain Dogs was our last kind of big one. But you still have places like the Walrus. You still have, there are so many people. You mentioned Jackrabbits. You have Tim. You have Lisa. You have Christina Wagner. Like all these people that have cultivated a space for everybody. So I do want to, make sure that everybody in Jacksonville knows that, yes, there are places that I will say for a little weird black kid, it wasn't always great. You didn't feel welcome. So, I hate that we still, I don't know, because I 5 Points is a thing now, and everybody thinks it's has turned, and that it's not for us anymore, but it is. And I think if it's for us, it's also for them. So the independent scene is still alive and well, and God knows I've been on it for a long time, and I'm happy that I was very surprised to brush my teeth and hear Max Michaels on First Coast Connect on my Alexa this morning. I said, "Oh, that's fine. How's it go? I'm going to the reunion." So just thank you for having this, but also please, guys, come out, support local bands. The Walrus, I will say, has taken up for a lot of the slack that we've lost from some of these places. So don't get discouraged by going wherever you don't think you don't belong, because you belong everywhere. I love you guys. Have a good day.
Omar, thanks so much. And we should say the 40th anniversary that's been mentioned a couple of times is celebrating Einstein A Go-Go. It's Friday, October 10th and Saturday, October 11th at the Albatross, and then Sunday, October 12th at Sanctuary's Goth Night Halloween tribute. But Shannon Blankinship, I want to bring you into the conversation here because Riverside Avondale Preservation, is not at the beach, and it is celebrating not just Einstein A Go-Go and the history of this club, but all music history in Jacksonville. This is the second year that RAP has done this. So first of all, who are you telling the story of, Jacksonville's musical history to? Who is this for?
Thank you, Anne. So Riverside Avondale Preservation was formed in 1974, a time that I think a lot of the creatives, a lot of the folks that would end up becoming, the people that we think of as the musical geniuses of Jacksonville were living in our neighborhood and creating music. It's fun to tell the history that we do through our home tour of when these homes were built and the architects that built them. But the music tour is all about telling the stories of the people that lived in our neighborhood in the 80s and the 90s and the music that came from the scene. I love hearing the conversation about how we can continue to bring musicians and talent and creativity to Jacksonville and to the music industry, because it's by supporting these artists and attending events like this that we're really trying to ensure that musicians have a space to be paid and to continue to play. So the history that we're going to be, hopefully bringing to life through the second annual music tour spans a tremendous range, not just including, artists and authors like Max and John to talk about the music history, but also songwriters of today talking about how 5 Points has shaped their songwriting through performance. We're going to be at 5 Points Liquor and Lounge, where we have a startup indie record label that's going to be playing with a lot of their musicians, a little more shoegaze or indie style. We're going to be at Friday Musicale with classical music performances, because Friday Musicale has been a part of the music scene here in Jacksonville since the 1890s. We've got tremendous performances from bands that are literally just coming together and perform and play together, because that's really what I think 5 Points generated. Different musicians living, in shared spaces throughout the neighborhood and saying, hey, do you want to go jam? And so having some of those musicians come together and perform for folks at what we're calling the Kaleidoscope stage. So we tried to take the framework of the home tour, multiple different spaces, and invite you into different experiences throughout the musical history and eras of 5 Points in Riverside, so that there's something for everybody.
And so part of it is the physical history, places where Leonard Skinner performed, or the Allman Brothers, first started playing together. And then some of it is the musical history that's being made now. I mean, so you've got live performances by people like Christina Wagner, Tough Junkie, Jay Myztroh. So you've got like a range of people who are also defining the current music scene.
Exactly. As well as, I hope, shaping the next scene to come. One of the stages is going to be completely focused on learning to play musical instruments with Darren Ronan and the School of Music. And so you can learn to play ukulele, do a drum line, guitar, piano, as well as the student band. We're really going to be looking at different eras of the neighborhood and then trying to showcase that through different performance stages. At the Riverside Arts Market, actually, we're going to be speaking directly to the history of 5 Points as a safe space for the LGBTQ community. And so we'll have performances all day at that stage as well. So really thinking about, the decades and eras of 5 Points, the way that music came together and intersected there. And for that reason, the main stage, which is at Riverside Park, is going to be totally crazy with a brass band, with an R&B show, and then finishing off with country rock performance. So literally something for everybody. And if you hate all of that, you can come and do the silent disco with hush hush headphones and just switch to the channel that you prefer, with, again, a focus on live local music.
Yeah. And so this is the 11th. It's Saturday. It runs from 2 to 7 p.m. And basically tickets are they're general admission, but you can get a priority pass that comes with a T-shirt.
Yeah, we're gonna give you some merch, okay? And so, again, to support local music and continue supporting, musicians and creatives, get some tickets and then get some merch and come out and show up and support. And, folks like Max that are gonna be talking about the eras, of 5 Points that were so fundamental to him and his movement. We've got so many great people like that throughout the day that I think will be hopefully, discussing what's important in musical history in Jacksonville.
John, I want to ask you, in terms of the touring band's experiences at Einstein A Go-Go is one really strong theme throughout the book. People talking about their experiences with the Faircloth family. And it's even in the title of the book, fried chicken, which is a signature dish that Bill Faircloth would prepare for the bands. But this was a time when bands were really, traveling sort of from one dank and dirty club to another, difficult travel conditions, often staying in really, nasty little motels. And this was a rare little oasis that also the bands talked about amongst themselves, being given a home cooked meal, being treated, welcomed by the family. And then, they're just a block from the ocean is kind of this great experience for a lot of the bands that came through, really special.
Very much so. And I mean, the welcoming all ages philosophy that kept the club open 5 or 6 nights a week for dancing when there wasn't live music, was the same when there was bands coming to town. So many acts we talked to, were called almost first thing, the fried chicken, Bill's specialty dish there. And knowing that, if they showed up in the afternoon for sound check, that they would get an awesome meal prepared for them. They didn't have to worry about, scrounging their last couple dollars to, hopefully get something from, say, Taco Bell or somewhere there. So they definitely got the meal. They got a chance to sort of unwind, with the ocean only a block away. They could go do that. And in talking to Tammy Faircloth, they always guaranteed that the bands would be paid. Some of these bands, I'm sure, had encounters with club managers or at different venues where, they, despite putting on a show, left with no money in their pocket or maybe just enough to get gas. Tammy and the family made sure that the bands, got their due and were always paid out. And so, it's no wonder that the bands, even as they became bigger and bigger, knew that they would be treated well at Einstein's,
Well, John,
thus came back.
yeah, I think you note in your book, I mean, they did pay the bands. They almost used that as a tool to get bands to come to Jacksonville Beach. I mean, this wasn't a natural destination for a lot of these bands. But you talk about how they sort of connected with the legendary booking agent, Frank Riley, through a local band, Love Tractor. But he represented bands like Husker Du and the DBs and the Replacements. And so he was able to bring in some of these bands. And that was the lure, was no matter what the door brings in, we'll make sure that your band gets paid in full.
Very much so. I mean, at that time, it's easy to imagine a band coming down the East Coast and hitting Atlanta and then skipping on over to maybe Birmingham or New Orleans, cutting Florida entirely out of the equation. So as Einstein continued to rise, and bands were looking for, okay, well, maybe we can make 6 hours out of the way to come to Jacksonville Beach, to have a club like Einstein's there, welcome you and make you feel at home and give you a break from the grind of the road was the case. And so yeah, the bands like Living Color, they played the club a couple times, and then next year they were opening for the Rolling Stones in the Gator Bowl. And so even when they jumped these bigger venues or the much more success that they had, they look back at a place like Einstein very fondly and thankfully that they had that moment when they were grinding it out.
Yeah. Max, just to wrap up, I guess I'll ask you, what you hope people learn about and remember of that era.
Well, I think, and one thing to John's thing, it wasn't just the bands that got treated well; it was the patrons. Me going out there as a 15-year-old and being treated with respect and welcoming, by the Faircloths was a whole different experience. It wasn't just paying a cover and walking into a venue. It was contributing to a scene and walking into a family, and that's what it was like. They treated you well, unless you screwed up, and then they, you know. And I always loved that. I always felt like, it felt like a home. It felt like a place that we could go and be safe and have a great time, and enjoy ourselves with a kind of reckless abandon that you don't often get these days.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. I wish there was more of that out there today, and I hope that happens this weekend at the shows.
Yeah. I love in the book, there's a couple people who sort of apologize for, sneaking in to the club and apologizing to the fair clause sort of after the fact. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Max Magazine, he's the founder and publisher of Movement Magazine. Shannon Blankinship, executive director of Riverside Avondale Preservation, and John Glass, author of Occupancy 250, Fans, Bands, and Fried Chicken, the stories of Einstein A Go-Go. Thank you all so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right. Up next, a local environmental group shifts its focus in response to growing pollution challenges. Welcome back. Well, what began as an effort to combat ocean plastics has broadened its mission this year. Here to tell us what prompted the change and what their new focus includes is Anne Marie Moquin, founder and executive director of Beaches Go Green. Good morning, Anne Marie.
Hi, Anne. Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks for coming back. Morgan Eaton, the group's director of programs. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
And Shelby Barrett, the group's director of community outreach. Good morning, Shelby.
Good morning, everybody.
So, Anne Marie, you founded Beaches Go Green, I think in 2018.
Correct.
It's been a minute. Remind us why you started in the first place.
So I started Beaches Go Green after watching a documentary called A Plastic Ocean. And I have always been a big lover of nature. And that documentary struck me on how our fast-paced single-use lifestyle, our convenience-based lifestyle, was impacting wildlife at the farthest stretches of the planet where there wasn't any civilization. And I thought that if we could create awareness about that, start thinking about our habits and stop the single-use plastic, we could make an impact to protect the environment.
And this was in response to a film that you saw, but also to your experience living at the beach and being just a member of the beach's community.
Absolutely. You can't go to the beach without finding littered cigarette butts or plastic wrappers of some kind. And even in the adjacent parking lots and the communities of Beaches Town Center or Jax Beach, there's a lot of litter.
Yeah. And so you have brought on, additional help to kind of, further the mission, Morgan and Shelby among them. But this year you've also sort of changed your focus and modified what Beaches Go Green is about and for. Tell us why.
Yeah, so the Beaches Go Green team has never been stronger. I'm so proud to have Morgan and Shelby on our team. And, we were racking our brains trying to figure out how to make a bigger impact and a greater reach. And what we realized was that unfortunately, not everybody has an affection for nature and the environment. Maybe they just haven't had that exposure or that connection. And so we started to think about how deeply connected human health is to the health of the planet. And we realized that there's a huge movement for health right now. There's an awareness about dyes in our food. There's an awareness about organics. There's awareness about people wanting to work out and be strong and be fit. I think that the statistics have come out that cancer rates are rising, especially at younger ages. Um, the fertility rates are declining. There's all these things that are happening, and we haven't quite pinpointed exactly why, but we wanted to make the connection and create the awareness that all of the toxins in our food and in our environment are not only harming our human health, but they're harming the planet. And so we decided to expand the reach to educate people on this because we feel like as people realize how deeply we are connected with the health of the environment, that we can get them on board to make small changes that will not only help their health, but help the planet.
You know, Morgan, it's funny. We were actually just talking about this on the program the other day about whether the wellness movement is in some ways, changing the focus and the priorities of the environmental movement, basically by recognizing that people are very focused on their own health, but maybe not so focused on planetary health or fighting pollution. And so I understand why Beaches Go Green would be moved to change the focus, but it's a little dispiriting, is it?
It is. I mean, I think that we try so hard to like push this message out, but not everyone accepts it. It's just everyone's in this fast pace, quick, um, you know, everything just has to come quick and easy. So if it's not presented on a silver platter, a lot of people just tend not to care.
Yeah. And so the impacts, though, as Anne Marie says, are very real when you're talking about things like plastics pollution, whether it's them
Yeah, it's
breaking down in the environment or being manufactured.
something simple as a plastic water bottle. Not only those toxic plastics leak into the water and into your system, but that bottle is literally trash.
Right. And so, Shelby, I know that the bottles, and there's a couple on the table
Yeah.
here, have been a big focus of Beaches Go Green because the idea is to supplant plastic water bottles, but also to change the way people think about, the risks that are inherent in plastic water bottles. And so some of that has come to, outreach with students. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we have a reusable bottles for sports programs within our schools. So the message with that is we want to teach the students to teach their teams about the single-use plastic epidemic that's going on, and then also about the chemicals that are in the plastic that impact the athlete's health.
Yeah. And so encouraging them to drink from a non-plastic water bottle is one thing, but you've actually worked to incorporate them as, I think you call it, kind of part of their uniform, right? So that when
hmm
they're on the field, they will be carrying the appropriate water bottle
Right.
and
Yeah.
not just a plastic one.
Yeah, so that they can rep BGG and then also rep their school team and kind of spread the movement that way.
Yeah. And so you work with sponsors, I guess, Anne Marie, to kind of bring them in to help them purchase the bottles, but then you kind of present them to a school or to a team and say, like, this, it's up to you to sort of enforce this as the expectation.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have had some amazing community sponsors and we're always seeking more community sponsors to help us with the program. Our idea is that the bottles are double-walled stainless steel and they keep the drink cold all day. They eliminate not just the environmental impact of the single-use plastic, which persists in the environment virtually forever, but also the chemicals that leach out of the plastic bottle into our drinks and into our food that impact fertility. They can impact brain development, gut health, many, many different systems in our bodies. So,
Yeah. And so I may just ask you the same question that I asked Morgan, which is in broadening this mission and sort of doing so because we understand that people are more focused on their own personal health than they are on planetary health or environmental health or the well-being of the, kind of nature around them. How do you, as an advocate for the environment, absorb that and kind of deal with that?
yeah, I think what we've realized is we need to meet people where they are. And although we would love to see huge, sweeping, rapid changes, we need to understand that people are in their own world, in their own mindset. And if we can suggest small changes that will improve their personal health, but also have a long-term impact on the planet, then that's where we're going to go. And whether they come to us or they make these changes for one reason or the other, I think that the general benefit is to everything, right? It's to the planet as well as our health.
Yeah. So Morgan, what are some of the changes and how do you communicate those to people, to adopt them even if it's piecemeal?
We've made some insanely great content that we put all over our social media. We've been making AI videos for the students to share not only within their clubs but their communities as well. We've just been trying to make it starts from as simple as using as an app to scan like your beauty products. So you can go in your house, you take this little app, you scan everything you use in the shower, it gives you a rating based upon what's in that product. And
Oh,
then
wow.
you can make a decision for yourself is if it scores high on, fragrance. What are those fragrance consequences in your body and the planet? So it's just simple things like that. We every time we post something, we show the planetary health, the human health aspect, and then we offer simple swaps.
Yeah. Shelby, do you find that your peers are willing to make those lifestyle changes? And are they bigger or smaller than people expect when it comes to trying to either shop healthier or buy better products?
I think starting small is always the way to go because you can't change everything overnight. But I think people are pretty receptive to it, just realizing that it's just small changes that you can make, like in the products that you buy, the clothing that you buy, the food, the drinks that you intake. So yeah, just making small changes. And I think people are more receptive to that rather than trying to overhaul everything overnight.
Is Beaches Go Green involved in any sort of legislative pushes, any efforts to sway the laws, Anne Marie?
So we always support our community partners like Oceana and Frisco Surfrider when they're doing those efforts. We don't per se go and legislate or petition at the state level, but I think that creating awareness and the groundswell of the everyday person is going to help push that. And we always encourage people to go vote with their values and
Yeah.
what's important to them.
So I know you've got an event on the 22nd of October. It's a fall festival, kind of a trunk or treat event at the Seahorse Oceanfront Inn, but you've got a cleanup planned as well?
We do. So, although Beaches Go Green is not a beach cleanup organization, of course, we're an environmental health organization. We recognize that engaging the community in simple ways, especially these community building events like cleanups, are great. So we are doing a holiday themed. As a matter of fact, it's a Frosty Paws. Bring your
Pause for
pet.
claws.
Pause for Claws event where we're going to encourage people to don festive gear for the holidays and bring their pets and come and clean up Beaches Town Center before the lighting of the Christmas tree later that day. So it's a great way for our sponsors to get engaged. It's a great way for people to come out and do things with their friends and family and give back to the community.
And that is when and how can people find out?
That'll be Saturday, December 6th. And it'll be at the Atlantic Boulevard Beach Access between One Ocean Hotel and the Seahorse Hotel. And you can always find more information about what's going on our Instagram and our website.
All right. Well, Anne Marie, Morgan, Shelby, thanks for the work that you guys are doing. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank
you
you
so
so much
much.
for having us.
All right. Up next, we're going to be talking about a shipboard dance party that you're going to want to attend. We'll be right back.
Ten Across presents Convergence, October 22nd and 23rd at the Hyatt Riverfront in Jacksonville. Leaders will discuss infrastructure, climate, and insurability. Features a conversation with Mayor Deegan. Registration at 10across.org/events. That's 10across.org/events. Blue Star Families, supporting military families through connection, community, and local engagement. Constant moves and deployments are part of military life. A little community can go a long way. Learn more at bluestarfam.org/radio.
On the next Fresh Air, Grammy Award-winning singer and musician Leve sings and plays some songs for us. Her music is a hybrid of pop, jazz, and classical music. She had rigorous classical training in Iceland, where she's from. Her mother, who's Chinese, plays in the Iceland Symphony Orchestra. Leve has a new album. Join us.
Today at noon on WJCT News 89.9.
What if you could make bets on the government shutdown, the World Series, and sales of Taylor Swift's new album all on the same website? Well, on platforms like Polymarket and Kalshi, you can.
You're aggregating the wisdom of the crowds and you're having people with real skin in the game being paid to forecast the future.
The explosive growth of prediction markets and how life changes when everything's a gamble. That's on the next On Point.
Today at 11, here on WJCT News 89.9.
The government shutdown is threatening a nutrition program for mothers and infants. Nearly 41% of all babies born in the U.S. participate in WIC, which offers vouchers for healthy foods and breastfeeding support. Officials say it might run out of money as early as next week, leaving states to decide whether to fund the program. The scramble to feed the country's most vulnerable. That's next time on 1A.
Today starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. A shipboard dance party showcases a dance that's grounded in the Dominican Republic, but founded in the movement of your hips. Here to tell us about it and the Bachata Dreams Salsa Nights event, we're joined by Yaya Cardona, Hispanic Outreach Coordinator for the city of Jacksonville. Yaya, welcome back.
Buenos dias.
It's great to see you.
I'm excited to be here with you. It's been a long time.
It has been. It's lovely to see you. We're also joined by Nadia Seastock. She's Events and Volunteer Coordinator for the USS Orlick. Good morning, Nadia.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us out today.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So, Yaya, you've hosted a number of salsa dance events. How is bachata different?
Bachata is different because I say it's like our country version of music. Is a little bit slower. It's a lot easier to dance to because basically it's like 1, 2, 3 to the left and then a little like hop, and then 1, 2, 3 to the right and a little hop, and that's basically the dance moves for bachata. And salsa is more complicated. Salsa is a little bit more complicated. So I wanted to do a combination of both because people are always, there's a lot of dancers here in Jacksonville, and so I wanted to create an event where they could really come out and showcase their dance moves.
It sounds like bachata has sort of like a more kind of emotional aspect to it, or kind of maybe romantic.
It's romantic. It could be very sexual too. It kind of reminds me of the Macarena, remember back in the day? But it is very romantic. The music, typically the lyrics are like very dramatic, like it's some kind of sad, sobby romance gone wrong, or like I just found the love of my life. So bachata music is very emotional, and even dancing, like I said. And there's different style of bachata. There's the slower version and the bachata that's a little bit faster as well.
I'll be honest, the videos that I was looking at, it was like if you're looking at introductory how-to videos, it looks like one thing. And then if you're watching somebody that actually knows what they're doing, it looks like a totally different dance.
Yeah, because once you know the basic steps, you could dance it different versions. So yes, you get the basic down. So as long as you're doing the 1, 2, 3 tap, 1, 2, 3 tap with bachata, once you know the basics, you're gonna notice that people dance it differently. So because they make their own version. But yeah, it is one of those dances that once you know the basic steps, you could make it your own way.
So why stage this at the Orlick? I mean, I'm going to ask Nadia to remind us a little bit about what the setting is of the Orlick. For people who haven't been there, it is a historic ship. It's at the edge of Bay Street on the river.
Correct. Yes. So we are the Jax Naval Museum. The ship itself, you're more than welcome to walk around the outer decks. Feel free to take as many pictures as you would like, but the actual dancing will be on the newly renovated pier side. The pier side is a large, almost 400 plus feet. It is probably the only spot downtown that you can actually say you were out on the river, but not on a vessel itself. So shoes are very important. Please keep in mind, skinny high heels may not be the best thing to dance in for this particular night, but plenty of room to dance away the night, see the sunset, which are spectacular to look
And the
over.
dolphins.
Oh my goodness, our river dolphins are always coming up and saying hello.
So what kinds of events are you hosting there? I mean, you do tours, right, in part.
do. We have tours during the daytime, Wednesday through Sunday. You're more than welcome to visit our website for all of the upcoming events, but we have a spectacular Monday 250th Navy anniversary birthday party celebration, 10 to 6. You can also check that out on our website, social media, and 904 Ticks. We'll also be supporting a breast cancer poker run. That is to support a JSO officer. And then, of course, we're so excited to have our first Latin fun bachata night. It's super exciting. We'll have a cash bar, food truck, and again, learning the history of the ship, which is the most important to offer everyone here in Jacksonville. It's a big, big military town. We love to bring out our veterans, our active duty, and of course, anyone and everyone that wants to support us.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really interesting venue. And so, other than the sunsets and the dolphins, yeah,
Yep.
what made you decide to do this one here?
Well, because they reached out to me, and I'm a Navy brat myself. I'm a
Is
proud
that
Navy
right?
brat. My dad was in the Navy for 24 years, so I grew up on naval ships. So when Nadia reached out, I was like, this is an amazing opportunity. And believe it or not, we have a lot of Hispanics here that are veterans. The third biggest naval base was in Puerto Rico, Roosevelt Roads. And when it shut down in 2004, 2005, that's when we got a boom of Puerto Ricans here in Jacksonville. That's the reason why I moved here. My dad, we were stationed in Roosevelt Roads, and we got stationed here. So we have a lot of Hispanic veterans here. And so I want to also, to do something to honor them and support them and honor my dad. And it's beautiful. I love the naval ship. And I just want to clarify, you do not need to be military to come to this event,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people will be confused that it's on a naval ship, so you have to have an ID. No, this is a free event. Not a free event, it's a ticketed event, but it is for everybody,
Wide
including
open.
civilians.
All right. Well, it's Friday, October 17th from 5:30 to 10. And no skinny heels, Yaya Cardona and Nadia Seastock. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. And that's our program. Thank you for listening. If you have comments or questions, you can send either to First Coast Connect at WJCT.org. And if you missed anything, you can catch our rebroadcast tonight at 8 o'clock, or you can find our entire archive on your favorite podcast platform. First Coast Connect is produced by Stacey Bennett. Our associate producer is Isabella Casapow. Brady Corum manages our sound and video, and our theme music is performed by Club de Belugas. Join us tomorrow when we meet former congressional Republican and current Democratic frontrunner for governor David Jolly. I'm Ann Schindler. You've been listening to First Coast Connect on WJCT News 89.9.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist Health and the North Florida TPO.
The North Florida TPO is committed to shaping our transportation future. We're focused on planning, funding, clean fuels, and new technologies for a vibrant, connected community. Learn more at northfloridatpo.com. Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjax.com. Congaree and Pen, dedicated to agriculture and culinary endeavors, offering field-to-fork dining and outdoor experiences on over 300 acres. Sip, dine, explore. Information at congareeandpen.com.